Hey folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. And today again we will continue with the Professional Ethics by the CA Act 1949. Right? So, in the previous lecture we had already started with the clause number 11. An interesting clause, right? Because most of you, when you move out after being chartered accountants and you get into practice, you would always want to diversify. So it is important to know the do's and don'ts of your diversification. What are you allowed to involve into? What are you not allowed? And if there are something that you're not currently permitted, can you be allowed? If yes, how and what are you supposed to do for that? Right? So a lot of things you need to know. So pay attention to this clause more importantly, because it is not just useful for your examination, but it saves you from the troubles in future. Okay? So, in the previous lecture, we have discussed about the text of clause 11, that if you are a chartered accountant, you cannot involve into any other business or profession unless permitted by the council. That is the crux, right? And then we had also been forward to the discussion about the two regulations, Regulation 190A and Regulation 191. Right? And as per 190A, you could get involved into any accounting profession. Right? And as per 191, you can get involved into other capacities of CAs like the liquidator, trustee, executors, and all those things. Right? But remember, it should be under the control of the council first, and secondly, that you cannot be into the whole time or salaried purpose over there. Salary come full-time employment over there, right? Basically. So you're not allowed to get into those things, but yeah, if you have a client or if there is a requirement to be a liquidator or a trustee for any particular span of time or for any particular case, you can go ahead with it. Right? Now, the next thing that we discussed in the previous lecture that we thought of continuing in today's lecture would be what? Yes, the two resolutions, the general resolution and the specific resolution. So the general resolution basically moves on to demonstrate what are the things that a chartered accountant is already allowed to do without any prior permission taken from the council. And for specific permission over there, you have listed all the various activities that you can get involved, but after consulting or after obtaining the permission of the council. Right? So we'll look into both of them today. So first we have the general resolution, right? And in general resolution, the first thing is the employment under a CA. So this is the simplest thing that you can understand, right? Because most of you would actually be looking forward into an employment after your chartered accountancy. That yes, one day when I clear, I get into a job in this profile in this company and then this and that and everything, right? So over here, first of all, we are not talking about any companies. We are not talking about your employment in any industry. We are talking about your employment under any chartered accountant. First thing, right? Which means if there is any firm of any chartered accountant around you or where you are into your internship or articleship, you convert and you become an employee with that chartered accountant. Right? Or if you're, this is the proprietary chartered accountant, or if you are already into training with any firm of chartered accountancy and you get an employment over there, or you switch, you go out to some other firm for employment, that can be covered in this part. That means it is not compulsory for you to actually involve into a practice being a chartered accountant. You can also go for an employment under any other chartered accountant. For that you have no obstruction. You're always allowed for that. That is deemed, right? You can always be there. Like if I worked with Big Four, that means it was an employment under a chartered accountant firm, right? KPMG and EY and Deloitte and PwC, these are not companies, these are firms. Chartered accountancy partnership firms, right? So that is number one. Moving ahead, tutorship, private, part-time, anything. Yes, this comes down to me, right? So what the institute basically goes on to say is that if you want to get involved in a tutorship, so either you go for your private tutorship, you are a teacher, you have students, you teach, right? That can anytime be done. Or you can also get an employment, right? That means you can get into a part-time tutorship under the coaching organization of the institute. Now, what do you mean by a coaching organization of the institute? That means if institute has organized any coaching centers, right, then you can go and get your part-time employment under the institute to teach the students over there. Like if you, whenever you have your council, right, your institute in your hometown, I'm not talking about just the Delhi headquarters, Vishwasnagar or something like that. I'm talking about all the institutes across the countries. Most of those places, the institute, they organize for your lectures, right? You have classes over there, 1 hour, 2 hour lectures on different subjects, different topics. So where you go and attend, right? And that is very cheap. So the teachers who come over there, right, they can be chartered accountant, practicing chartered accountants, right? Because over here we are only talking about chartered accountants in practice. So there are practicing chartered accountants who can get involved into tutorship. So for me, as I am not a practicing chartered accountant, right, these restrictions will not apply on me, right? So please don't come up and say, sir, this is not your private tuition and neither are you under the organization of the institute. No. We as the Wikipedia World, we are providing to you classes, lectures on CA subjects, right? And I, first of all, being into the job category, right, I have been part of Big Four. I have been into jobs. So being into job, I have no restriction like this. Now since I am not into job anymore also, right, now since I'm into a business of my own, again these restrictions do not apply on me. Why? Only because I am not into practice as well. So these guidelines, these restrictions, they do not come upon you just because you have a certificate or a degree of chartered accountancy. Please understand that. As a student, this was a confusion in my mind as well. I don't know about a lot of you, but yeah, some of you may have this confusion. Getting that degree or the certificate, right, that membership number will not restrict you. But if you are into practice, you have your COP and you are actually practicing, that will restrict you from involving into other tutorships as well. Clear? So you can get into your part-time tutorships. After you qualify, you want to be a tutor, you can just assemble students and start teaching them, no problem, even if you are into practice. Daytime you go over there and evening you come and you teach some students. Not a problem. That is not a business, right? That is teaching. And teaching what? Again, teaching the CA subjects and other things. But over here, if you look at the institute module, they do not specify what tutorship. They just say private tutorship. So you can teach anything, right? But if you get into part-time tutorship under any organization, then that has to be the organization of the institute. Clear? And remember, it is only when you are a chartered accountant and you are into practice. Moving on, next we have authorship or editorship. Now, what is an authorship and what is an editorship? Like, do you people understand the difference between the two? Some of you may have guessed it correct. Yes, authorship means you author a book, right? You write an entire book and that is your book, your story or your content inside it, right? And that book is printed by your name, that yeah, this is so and so is the author of the book, right? But when we actually talk about editorship means you get into writing of some particular articles, journals, right? But you do not publish an entire book of your own. So these are the two differences. So if you want to author any book, may it be on the profession, may it be on the subjects provided, may it be on anything else, authoring a book is never restricted. You can author any book. It's writing, right? It's not a business that you get involved with the public. Just you write the book, get it published, start selling it, no problem with that. You can be an author of any book or any article, right? And when we talk about editorship, unrestricted editorship is allowed only for your professional journals. You know, every month you get a journal at home. People who have subscribed, I'm talking to them. Every month you have a journal from the institute at home, right? So we are talking about those professional journals. So over there, if you want to write an article, if you want to submit an article, you are most welcome to do that. There is a blanket approval on it. You do not require any permission from anywhere to provide such articles, right? So authorship, editorship, tutorship, all these things are allowed. Next you have holding LIAL. Now what is LIAL? LIAL stands for Life Insurance Agency License. You know LIC agents basically. So you can have that license to be an LIC agent. You can distribute LICs, right? But again, there's a restriction on this, that you can have this license for the limited purpose of getting renewal commissions only. You cannot go ahead in the market to sell off license. But if somebody wants to get their license renewed or their LIC renewed, they can come to you and you can get it renewed and get a commission out of it. That is it. Right? So you can hold the license of LIC for the specific purpose of earning the renewal commission and nothing else. Next, even if you are a chartered accountant, even if you are in practice, right, and you still want to go ahead for any other examination. Over here, we are not talking about your CA examination because many people confuse it. Right? As a student, even I thought, yeah, we are allowed to go for our classes and appear for examinations. How can institute obstruct that? But over here, remember, we are not talking about your CA final examinations, your breaks from your internship. No. This is a clause which is applicable on the chartered accountants in practice. So we are talking about they going on for any other classes or any other examination. So if they want to acquire any other degree, they are allowed to do so even post being a chartered accountant and even post having started a practice. Right? There is no obstruction for that. It's a blanket approval. Okay. Next, if you want to hold any public elective offices, such as if you want to be a member of parliament, member of legislative assembly, anything, right, then you are not restricted, because these are posts that cannot be restricted. You cannot say, yeah, you are a doctor, you cannot be an MLA. You are a chartered accountant, you cannot be an MLA. You are a lawyer, you cannot be an MLA. Anyone can be an MLA. Right? You have certain requirements of being an MLA. If that is fulfilled, there is no obstruction in any profession that you cannot be an MLA. Right? So if you want to hold any public elective office after being into practice, you can do that without any approval taken from the council. Right? Moving ahead, next, you can also take up honorary office leadership of the charitable, educational or other non-commercial organization. Right? There are certain non-commercial organization or many educational centers, right, that are opened up for charity. So if you want to head that, right, if you want to manage that, you can do it, because that is not considered to be a business. You are not trying to make money out of it. So even if you have clients, you're not trying to persuade your clients, okay, let's do this, let's do that, and let's build this up and we'll share profit. No, it's not profit sharing. It's charitable. Right? So these kind of activities, if you get involved in, if you want to lead it, you cannot be obstructed for that. You are allowed to do it. Right? That is something you're doing for the good cause. Next, if you want to act as notary public, justice of peace, special executive magistrate, right, or anything alike, you are allowed to do it. Right? You can be a gazetted officer, right? So if you want to be a gazetted officer, you can be a gazetted officer even after you are into practice. You want to be a part of notary public, you can be. Right? You can act as a notary public. You can sign documents, you can attest documents, you can do anything. Those things are in your capacity as a chartered accountant. Again, if you refer to your regulation 191, they speak similar words. Right? They say you can be a liquidator, trustee, executor, but all under the control of the council basically. So over here also you do not require permission for these, but when you act, you have to act under the control of the council. Okay. Next, exam assistance. Now when you go for your examinations, all of you have been for your examinations into IPCC, right? So you see whichever school you have your center in, you go to that school, the teachers are basically your invigilators in the class. But then there is a term called flying that most of us use. Right? There are charters who are actually given the duty to introspect and to inspect the entire center. Each chartered account, each location or each school, each center is allocated with a bunch of chartered accountants who take care about the entire thing. So those CAs are in practice. Right? Why do I say confidently they are in practice? Because if they are in job, they do not have time during the day to come and invigilate you. Right? The people in job, they cannot do that. People in practice, yeah, it's their office. They can just move out from the client for 2 hours and do it. Not a problem with that. Right? So if you want to evaluate papers, you get the papers and you are a checker in that case, or you want to act as a paper setter, you want to give your set of questions to be put forward and to be asked in the examination, you can do that. You want to be a head examiner or a moderator of an examination center, you want to be an invigilator, whatever you want to be, you can do that. So any assistance that you want to provide to the institute, right, which is connected with the examinations, any CPT, IPCC, final, any of them, institute will not mind. An institute wants some working hand into it, because people who are in job will definitely not come, and others having degree and not practicing or not into job, into this field, the institute can't take help from them. So the only people remaining with the institute to take help from is the people who are in practice. That is why they have left it open. Yeah. If there's a work for the institute, please come along, help hands, and then we can enjoy. Right? Then you have acting as surveyor. Now when I say surveyor, right, it does not mean you survey anything and everything. Specifically over here, what the institute has allowed you to be is to be a surveyor or loss assessor under the Insurance Act, but only if you are eligible for the same. So you see, insurance, the LIC and the Life Insurance Act, being a surveyor, being an agent, being all those things, these are all allowed. I don't know what is the logic behind it, but being a chartered accountant, you can be involved with the life insurance things related to these two issues. That yeah, you can have the license, you can be a surveyor, you can be a loss assessor, and all such stuff. Right? At last we have about agriculture. So if you belong to that Kisan background, right, or if you want to get into agriculture and you own some agricultural lands where you carry out some agricultural activity, that is always allowed, right? Nobody can obstruct you from getting into an agriculture business. Why? It's not actually a business. You're not manipulating, you're not getting clients over there, not doing anything. What you're doing is you are the regular Kisan of the country and you are feeding the country. So please go ahead with your noble cause. You own lands, you get into the farming, agriculture activities, you sow seeds, you grow them, you harvest them and then sell it off in the market. If that is your thing, your family thing, or you have the business, you have the agriculture land and everything, you get into activities, get into it, man. There's no problem with that. Right? That is not like other businesses that we are trying to actually obstruct. Because the intention is very clear. We just want the dignity, independence and the integrity to be maintained. There's nothing else that we require. So agriculture, LIC, tutorship, editorship, authorship, all these things are always allowed for you. Right? So these are the general resolutions. For this, you do not need any permission from anybody. These are like always allowed kind of things. Right? So if this is very clear with you, we can move ahead to the specific resolution thing. This is specific resolution. So here also you have a long list, but as per the time constraint that we have, picking up another topic, that is the specific resolution, we'll have to complete the entire topic in the lecture. I don't leave topics in between. Right? So again, going through the entire specific resolution will take another 15 minutes and that would lengthen the class. So what I would do is, I think I would take up this entire portion in the next lecture, so that it is easier for you to, if you want to revise, just go to the particular lecture and you know what is over there and revise it. You don't have to go through the entire lecture for that. Right? So I'll see you guys back in the next lecture. Until then, it's Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you and bye-bye.